All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Quiroz. I'm the Senior Vice President at Caldwell Banker and Vision here in Southern California. And my colleague, Aaron Tennyson. Aaron, you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do?
Aaron Tennyson, Senior Loan Officer over at United American Mortgage. Yeah, happy to be here, and we're gonna go over, helping you get into a house.
Yeah, that's
But
the
you,
whole goal of today's webinar, house hacking in Southern California. We want to talk about how first-time buyers can, get some revenue going from their real estate investments. This is great for a first-time buyer. This is great for somebody who wants to build an investment portfolio of real estate so they can, live lavishly in their retirement years and down the road. So, it's a really cool way to get things going for us, it's going to help you make your lifestyle a little bit cheaper. We're also going to ensure that we look at the roadmap to help you get there and figure out what's next. So before we can start hacking a home, we have to have a game plan to see where we're going. Okay, so we're going to cover that today for you guys. Let me go to the next slide here. All right, so today's webinar roadmap, we're going to talk about 6 different things. The Southern California Affordability Program or the problem. We're going to talk about what house hacking is and how it can reduce some costs for you. We're going to talk about some different types of properties that might qualify. We're going to talk about some loans that could help you purchase your first property or house hack to a portfolio. And Aaron has done a really good job of doing some research, and he came up with a true real life case study of a 3-unit property that we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at the numbers for today's marketplace, and you're going to see how this can actually help you save money when buying a home and make money really quickly with this revenue stream. Okay. So,
sir.
step one is all about how hard it is to buy a house right now in Southern California. So, let's talk about why it's so hard to buy in SoCal today, right? So, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm sure you guys have heard about these things on the news, international conflicts, inflation, gas prices, food price. There's a lot of stuff happening right now in the economy, and the number one factor we think is affordability.
Oh yeah.
Over the past 5, 6 years since the COVID shutdown, real estate in Southern California has appreciated so much, but people's wages haven't actually gone up. So how do we bridge that gap, right? How do we figure out a way to still push homeowners to their goals of owning real estate, the American dream, and also ensure that future people can afford to buy in this marketplace? That's definitely what we want to talk about today. Owning a home has a lot of awesome perks, but there are some basic pieces you have to understand before we can start and pick one out, okay? So let's go to the next slide real quick and talk about the elements of buying a home in today's market. When you buy a house, there's a lot of things to think about, right? Like the location, the down payment, and the maintenance of owning a home, versus renting. You also have to make sure you know how much money you can spend, okay? Yes, the price point matters, but the monthly
Yeah.
cost is the most important thing for you. Aaron, I'm not sure about you, man, but I don't ever like to tell our buyer clients just because you're qualified for this much money doesn't mean you got to spend it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I end up telling them. Same thing. I may qualify you here, but you may not want that payment. And I make jokes that, if you spend all your money on your house, you can't take your wife out, then, well, she's going to take half.
Uh, there's that's an option, right? We definitely want to make sure that our buyer clients, if you're working with us, we want to make sure that number one, it's a good investment for you, and that it's something that it's attainable. We don't want you working just for a mortgage payment. We want you guys to, be a homeowner for a long time, appreciate the benefits, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. So, if we know the basic elements of buying a house, Aaron, why don't you tell them about the process to qualify so we can figure out how much they can actually afford?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and going back to this real quick, what you were saying before, yeah, when we do the pre-approval, I'll do that, but then we also kind of go into what they call it, a budget call, and we go into the maintenance and and the other things that people don't, especially first time buyer, don't take into consideration, especially if you're a renter. Hey, fridge breaks, you fix it, things like that. But yeah, as far as when you're first looking into the house, like it says here, amount of down payment, amount you can borrow based on your income. What what they look at when we're pre-approving you for a home is, I mean, there's really about four things: your down payment, your income, your debts, and your credit scores. So the way it works is you make X amount of dollars, the lender will allow you to use, typically 50% of that for all of your debts. So what we do on my end is we look at that, and then from there we can factor, what you can qualify as far as a home purchase.
Yeah, I like that,
So,
Aaron. All
and
right.
next,
All right, let's go to the next. Let's talk about, you know how renting these other units out. If you house hack, it can help you maybe buy a bigger house. Let's see how
uh,
that works to shrink your living costs.
well, yeah, as far as that's kind of what we're talking about here, the house hacking. So let's just assume you purchase a single family residence. Well, you can house hack that too, but if you've got other people paying, 25, 50, 75% of your mortgage, well, now you can afford, a larger mortgage payment, also, a larger home. So it's a way for you to offset what you would typically be spending out of pocket. Or even if you're comfortable with, whatever, let's say a $6,000 a month payment on your own, but you can rent out, a unit or two units and they cover, 50% of that. Oh, great. Now you've got a $3,000 payment. So you've got more money left over every month towards, savings, investments, paying off your own debt, paying down the mortgage. So you own the home quicker. So there's a lot of good reasons. And we can also use, depending on the type of property, uh, we can use some of that rental income to help add to your own income and help you qualify for more of a purchase price.
Yeah,
It's
I really
depends on.
like this. This is actually really smart. It's like, buying a house and renting out rooms to your kids. Imagine if you had,
Yeah.
if you got two kids and they're not living for free, they got to pay rent, and that rent helps you reduce your overhead costs. That's basically what house hacking is, either on a single family, and a multi-room condo, or a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. So let's talk about the actual types of properties that you could purchase or target to do house hacking, right? So these are the three types of properties that could be options when you're looking to get into house hacking. So first one we have here, single family residences, and that's basically what I just mentioned, right? I got a buddy of mine who has a 6 bedroom, four and a half bathroom house, and he takes the primary bedroom up in the corner suite, right? But all the rest of it he rents out to college students at UCLA. And he's making buku bucks every, semester because he's renting out these rooms at premium prices, and his monthly payment is nil. Right? They're making all the payments for him. He's going to cover utilities. So that's a great way to house hack a single family. Okay.
Oh,
You could also possibly do Airbnb for single families, but multifamily homes are probably the way to go. Duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, where the homeowner is living either in the larger unit or possibly the smaller unit for somebody who doesn't have a family, and renting out the other units so they're supplementing the total monthly payment. So that's a really good house hack right there, multifamilies. Condos can also be house hacked as well, but it's a little tougher because condos are smaller spaces. So unless you're comfortable renting out a room with somebody, to a stranger, it might be best if you house hack a condo with a close friend or family member. So while a normal house works, multifamily units are probably the ultimate house hacking setup. Aaron, let's talk about house hacking these ones. Talk a little bit about long-term renters versus vacation renters.
Yeah, I mean, you can get into like you're saying, single family with an ADU or renting out your rooms, things like that, which is great after you purchase the home. I mean, we can use an ADU now, finally as rental income to help you qualify. But truly, if you're getting into, two, three, and four units, that like you said, that's the way to go, especially if you don't currently own a home. So let's say like an FHA loan, you can get into, four units, 3.5% down. I don't know, rates right now are like 6%. And then you can use the other three units to help you qualify for, it could be $1 million for units. And then three of those units may offset all or, a large chunk of your monthly payment. So like you said, like with your buddy running out rooms for the college students, you acquire all the appreciation and everything else, the tax write-off, but you've got three other people or two other people paying, the majority of your mortgage.
Yeah.
Um, and the same, you can do it with vacation renters, like you mentioned, Airbnb. So I don't know, let's say you've got a 4 unit. Well, you can live in one, rent out two, leave the other one open. If, like you said, rent it out for the World Cup, or somebody wants to be close to the Santa Monica Beach or something, and just use it for that. And people are making a killing on Airbnb.
Yeah.
So it's another way to make additional income and pay off your house quicker or your debts, or just put that money away or go on a vacation.
Or go on a vacation, right? And rent
That's
somebody else's
it.
Airbnb out. So,
That's it.
one of the things I want to talk about with Airbnb for our audience live and watching the recording is that you need to be aware of the Airbnb laws for your county and your city, because the Santa Monica is very strict when it comes to Airbnb rules. The city of Los Angeles is strict. The county of LA is strict. But if you go to places like Palm Springs, oh man, Palm Springs, Big Bear, Joshua Tree, hey, they let you Airbnb as much as you want
Yeah.
because those are secondary home communities. So just be aware if you're thinking Airbnb arbitrage, get with us first so we can talk about how it works in the areas you're looking at. But Aaron, I love that you brought up the World Cup because a lot of people are paying a lot of money right now
Oh
to be
yeah.
close to Los Angeles for these games. And then next year we have the Super Bowl coming to Los Angeles, so people are going to come in, for those 2 weeks. And then the year after that, we got the big granddaddy of them all. We got the Olympics coming to Los Angeles, and that's going to be a month and a half long, opportunity for Airbnb arbitrage to make a lot of profit there. Okay.
And plus, there's people coming to LA. I mean, just to come to LA.
Yeah.
And again, really quick with the Airbnb, that's kind of an after you purchase the home hack. Because when it comes from the loan standpoint, it's not income I can use, let's say, to help you qualify. But renting the other three or two or one units is definitely a way that we can, get you into more of a home. And hey, you live there for a year, 2 years, then you rent everything out, and then you go buy the single family that you want, single family home of your dreams, and now you've got the beginnings of a real estate portfolio. So
Yes.
it's a great way to get into it.
I love that, man. Doing this sounds really cool. But let's take a look at the real-time math. Aaron, you did a great case study here with a 3 unit property here, right? And you're basically going to showcase how the math works. And guys, if you're watching this either live or you're watching the recording, this is where you want to get your pens and papers out to take some notes, okay? The math here is a little bit complex, but at the end of the day, this is going to help you save a lot of money. So, Aaron, let's go ahead and talk about this 3 unit purchase and the cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one scenario that was a loan I did not all that long ago, but same. This particular one, they happened to be a first time buyer, so they decided they got pre-approved with their own income. The maximum they could buy was a single family at $645,000. At that particular point, their total payment, taxes and all that, everything included, is about $4,200. Well, what they opted to do is instead, they bought a triplex. Again, this is their first time, so they got into a triplex. We were able to use the rental income from the other 2 units, to get them into $830,000 purchase price, and use that rental income to offset their payment. So now instead of the $4,200 payment, he's got what? Yeah, he's got $3,600 in rental income, so he's living there for less than $1,000 a month.
That's so cool. That's so cool. You guys
Uh,
hear that? like
Well,
utilizing this 3 unit purchase analysis, renting out two of those rooms, two of those units, the homeowner, now you own the property, it's under your name and under your control, and you're living there for, $1,000, give or take, versus paying the whole thing. That's a smart money move for sure. For sure. So, Aaron, buying sometimes a bigger building sounds a little bit scary, but let's take a
that's
look at, some of the money that comes out of the pocket every month because of this, okay? Here's more of the case study. Explain this.
oh, same, so now his current mortgage payment's $5,400. And again, that's going to vary depending on obviously, sales price, rents, rates, and all that good stuff. But in this particular case, his current mortgage paying $5,400. He's getting 3,600 in rent, so now he's paying 1,800. And really, he or she, whatever, I forget which it was, but they're collecting more than the 3,600 because what they do when they qualify is they automatically take 25% of whatever the rent is for vacancy. So assuming, hey, someone lives there a year, then they take off, whatever, and you've got, 2 months worth of rent that you're not collecting or something. So in reality, this person's collecting more than 3,600 a month. Um, but yeah, so that's what it says here. So if you had no vacancies, you had long-term tenants that were there for years and years, his mortgage payment would be $600 a month. You know,
Yeah,
so so you
that's
can live in your own house for less than what you could go, well, less than a car payment right now. But
yeah.
again,
Less
that
than
just depends
less
on where you're looking to live.
it's like less than filling up a gas tank almost, huh? Jeez.
But especially if you're getting diesel.
Looking at this, Aaron, what the biggest takeaway for me, looking at just these two things right here, was when we look at, buying a single family residence at 645 with that payment of 4257, and then looking at, getting the 3 unit here. Oh man, you're cutting the house bill, in more than half. You're basically paying, 1,800 bucks, right? Or possibly 600, if we're accounting for vacancies versus 4,200 for a bigger property.
Yeah.
It's a great thing if you can do the house hacking the
Yeah,
right
that's
way.
why I try to educate a lot of my first time buyers, especially let's say with FHA. It is you really got one shot at this in the beginning. You don't already own a home. Well, if you don't, then you can get in, like I said, two, three, 4 units for that 3.5%. You don't have to live there for your whole life. Live there for a year, then go buy something else, rent it out, and now it pays for itself, or possibly even cash flows and helps you, pay for your next house. Um, but yeah, it's some do it, some don't, and the ones that actually do it are very happy a year or two down the road because now they own a single family. Which hey, you can rent out rooms in an ADU if you want to there, and you got two, three, or 4 units in your real estate portfolio.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna help them get there, Aaron. Let's talk a little bit about the single family versus multifamily. One of the things I want to make sure you guys know about is yes, single families are the most popular type of home, and when you're trying to house hack, single family, it's more private. If you have friends and family who you care about who are renting those rooms out, or you're just living by yourself making that whole payment. So yes, the privacy is there with a single family. But with a multifamily, you're able to house hack and save a lot of money. Going back to what Aaron said, maybe you live there for a year, 18 months, and you make that sacrifice for the
mhm.
betterment of your future way down the road, you know, and consistently move yourself up from the single families or your first purchase, like Aaron mentioned, to the next bigger properties, eventually landing in the dream home with a portfolio of properties in your back pocket. That would be
Yep.
really good. Um, Aaron, let's talk a little bit about, the ways they can, really hack a single family home, right? We talked a little bit about Airbnb, right? We touched
Yeah.
on that. We touched on having housemates.
Yeah.
Basements are not huge in Southern California, but in some parts
No.
of South LA, there are a lot of basements, for those houses built in the 20s and 30s. You can also rent out storage space, right? If you have a large lot, people can rent out space for RVs or boats or whatever you got like that. If you're close to one of the colleges, whether you're all the way in Claremont, you know what the Claremont College is, you're at UC Riverside, you're over here at UCLA, USC, you can rent out to college students, you know. You can add a separate unit. Aaron, I know you talked about ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
Now those count towards their rental income, correct?
Yeah, I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long ago did they make that change, Aaron? Do you know?
Probably within the last 12 to 18 months because of all the new laws and zoning that the state came out with. So now that, everybody's building, these separate ADUs or converting their garages into ADUs, where it used to be a lot tougher, but then the state came in and just didn't wipe out the zoning laws, but they made them very, very flexible, just due to the housing shortage and room to build new homes. So they're allowing people a lot more leniency to convert that garage. I've got a client, for instance, here in Upland, converting their two-car garage into a one-bedroom, one-bath, however, whatever the square footage is, and she'll get anywhere from $1,800 to $2,000 a month for the ADU, and her mortgage payment is $3,300. So now she'll live there for $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and she doesn't lose her privacy because the garage is, it's completely off by itself. It's got its own entrance, and you still have, the bulk of the home, but I mean, she just knocks 70% of her mortgage payment off. So
Yeah.
you can either pocket it or put that towards the house and have the house paid off in, whatever, I don't know, 18 years or, I'd have to do the math, but no.
The
She's
beauty of
sick.
it though is the tenant is paying the house off, not
That's it.
her,
That's
right?
it.
That's the beauty of it. So, whether if you're watching this, live or you're watching the recording, whether you choose a single family home to house hack or you choose a multifamily property to house hack, you're gonna need a bank loan if you don't have all cash.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Aaron, let's talk about the loan choices to house hack.
Yeah, I mean, these are the three main. I mean, there are not an infinite number, but there's almost a loan out there for just about everybody. But your main, vanilla loans are your conforming loans, which are, your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. It's just a 30-year fixed. Typically requires, higher credit scores, and a little bit larger down payment than, let's say, an FHA or even, well, especially a VA loan. So, the conforming loans are how do I put it? You can house hack with them, but it's a lot easier with FHA and VA, especially when it comes to the units, and the down payment and the interest rates. Conforming loans require a bigger down payment unless you're buying that single family with the ADU. Great, it's the same 3% or 5% down, and then you can buy the home and do like we talked about, rent out two of the bedrooms or convert your garage, et cetera, after the fact. Whereas FHA, same, it's a 30-year fixed. They'll let you get into a 2, 3, or 4 unit property, assuming you don't own another one. It's got to be your primary residence. You're going to live in one of them, in other words,
Yes.
3.5% down.
That's really important, Aaron. I want to make sure everybody hears that. If you're going to be using an FHA or VA loan to house hack, you must live in the property as
Yep.
your primary residence.
For
Okay.
at least 1 year.
At least 1 year minimum. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure you're not thinking I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hoodwink FHA or VA. You're not. You're
Yeah,
not.
they're smarter, especially with all this tech now.
Yeah.
They have their little magic tricks behind the scenes.
No, Aaron,
Um,
I love this here. You're talking about, how each loan can, kind of have different rules for the money. So they definitely need to speak with a loan officer like yourself to figure out what the best loan products would be. So can we move on to the next loan type and
yeah,
the down payments? Yeah.
yeah. So
Talk about
kind
this
of
for
like we were talking. Oh, go ahead, sorry. Oh, I thought
good.
you were. No,
Go ahead.
like we were talking about with the conventional or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Minimum down payment is 3%. You do have to be a first time buyer. 5%. You could have bought 50 homes. But again, these are based on primary residence. In other words, again, you're moving into the property. So you can buy a single family with 5% down. And again, if it's got an ADU or that that what they used to call in-law quarters, guest house, now it's an accessory dwelling unit. But so then you get into 5% down. Again, it's really for your clients that have the higher credit scores and all that. Whereas FHA, I mean, I can do a loan, with a 580 credit score and still do 3.5% down. Uh, and
Yeah.
get into those 2, 3, and 4 units. And as long as the property cash flows, meaning your rent is the same as or more than what your mortgage payment is, we can use the other 1, 2, or 3 units to add to your income and help you buy, whatever, say $1 million 4 units versus, a $600,000 single family, and then have them pay the bulk of your mortgage payment. VA, yeah, I mean, it's the best loan out there. I mean, I'm a veteran, but I'm not biased, but it's zero down. Zero down, zero what they call PMI. It's mortgage insurance. And you can, again, you can go buy, say, 1, 2, 3, 4 units as your primary residence with zero down, not zero out of pocket, but zero down payment because you still have closing costs and things like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's no better way to get into something like that if you're a veteran. It's an amazing loan.
You got to qualify for that veteran loan. Okay. It's not for everybody, right?
Yeah, you got to be a veteran.
Got to be a veteran, not a veteran's kid, not a veteran's
Oh,
grandparent, not a sister, brother. You got to be the veteran themselves. Okay. But
exactly.
Aaron, FHA loans are super popular for most
Oh,
beginners, right? So let's take a little bit of closer look at what FHA loans might look like on a 2 to 4 unit building.
oh yeah, but I can
Oh,
update
easy.
this slide. I mean, five. It says 600 here, but again, we can go down to 580.
Yep.
Everything gets ran. I mean, this is 2026, so everything is ran through what they call an AUS, an automated underwriting system. So everything gets plugged in, and it takes into consideration all these different variables: your income, your assets, your credit scores, your down payment, and it runs it through a system, and it either gives us an approval or it doesn't. Uh,
Yeah.
but like we were mentioning, you can get two to 4 units with that same 3.5% down. So I don't know, let's just say a $700,000 house, or I'm sorry, unit. Obviously not going to find that in LA, but it's 25 grand out of pocket for your down, and you've got something that's probably paying for itself or darn near.
Yeah.
With rent.
Uh, FHA has pretty strict rules, it's a great program, great for first-time home buyers. I love this. It's really smart to look into these things. Let's make sure we know exactly what's allowed when buying a multifamily, right, with FHA. Want to talk about this for a little bit, Aaron?
Yeah, well, FHA's I mean, they're not crazy strict, but when you're buying a home, really what they're looking for is like when an appraiser goes out and does their inspection, they're looking for health and safety. So you can't go out, well, you can, but it's a different loan. And purchase, let's say 4 units, or the windows are all broken out and the roof is falling off, things like that. It's got to be, basically move in ready. It doesn't have to be up to date. It could have counters from the 70s and carpet from the 70s, as long as it, again, doesn't pose any health and safety issues. And then, hey, you get in, typically you get something like that, you can get it cheaper, and over time, you fix it up. And then as that property goes up in value, your loan goes down, now you've got equity in that property. And, hey, it's fixed up, you get more rent. So, but yeah, they're not, the maximum they do is 4 units. Anything above 4 units is considered commercial. So residential is strictly single family or 1 to 4 units, and that's
Yes.
all FHA does. And again, strictly primary residence. You don't have to be a first-time buyer. You just can't own another home and then use FHA. So
One FHA loan at a time. Same thing with
That's
VA,
it.
right?
Yeah.
One VA loan at a time. You can never have
Yeah.
two at
Because
this.
again, none of them do investment properties. If you're doing an investment property where you own your current home and you want to go buy another one as a rental, well, then they have, conventional loans or, other types of loans for that product.
That's a really good thing. I love that you mentioned that because that's going to take us to a segue to our next slide here. The FHA occupancy and rental rules. So Aaron already told you guys, you got to live in the house with FHA for a minimum of 1 year. But with FHA, you're not going to be able to do Airbnb unless you change your loan type, right,
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah, FHA doesn't allow the Airbnb. Um, so conventional will, but again, not for qualifying purposes, but after the fact. Uh, so yeah, so if you're looking to purchase those units, then they're looking at long-term rental. Someone's whatever moving in, a 1 year lease type of thing, and then they'll give you 75% of whatever that projected rent is. Um, and if it's not currently rented, let's say you go buy 4 units and they're vacant, then when the appraiser goes out, they do a particular form and they base it on current market rents. So let's say you're buying a 4 unit complex in LA, and each unit is running out for $3,000 a pop. Well, they're going to give you the $9,000 minus 25%, and they'll add that to whatever your personal income is, and that's how we help you qualify for that much larger 4 unit sales price.
Yeah, I love that, Aaron. It's a really flexible program, this FHA. Now that's the FHA program. Let's switch gears a little bit because we do have some people who are interested in VA and how can you utilize the VA program to house hacks because there are different rules. You want to talk about this for a second, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean they're very similar to FHA. Really the main, well, obviously main difference is you have to be a veteran, whereas FHA you don't. Uh, and there's zero down. There's a few little, I guess, caveats with the VA loan. They do want, well, as it states, their previous landlord experience, or you can set up a property management plan with, there's a lot of realtors that have their own, property management company. Vic probably knows a few. If not, I know a few. So that's another way that the veteran can get into those units. Like we have a client looking at him now, a veteran. So he would be in the same position because he doesn't have the landlord experience. So we would get a property management company to help handle those other 3 units, and then they just they subtract whatever percent that management company keeps out of that
Yeah.
rental income. But I mean, it's basically very, very similar to FHA as far as health and safety, credit scores. Uh, the biggest, like I said, things are zero down. You got to be a veteran, and like it says here, that the DTI, or what they call debt to income ratios, which is your debts compared to your income, they can be stretched a lot further on a VA loan than they can on any other loan. So they allow you to use a lot more of your gross income than any other loan out there. So,
It's
yeah, like I
really a
said,
great
it's
loan
a
for
it's
our
a freaking
veterans.
awesome loan.
Yeah, it's a great loan for our veterans. They calculate, one of the things about VAs, they obviously want you to have a little bit of experience being a landlord if you're going to try to do house
Yeah.
hacking with this. They also calculate the rental income a little bit differently, right? So let's touch on this for just 30 seconds and we'll move on to the next piece here.
Yeah, really, the main thing is the the reserve requirements. FHA doesn't have them. In other words, reserves mean, and PITI is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So it's basically your entire mortgage payment. So the veteran, yeah, he gets to come in with, or she, with 0% down, but they've got to have at least 6 months worth of payments set aside. So, for instance, your mortgage payment's 5 grand. Well, you got to have 30 grand sitting in, checking, savings, 401k, stocks, whatever it is. They don't use it, but it's got to be there for reserves for those vacancies, like we discussed.
Yeah.
Uh, because you may have an $8,000 payment, And well, if for whatever reason all three of your tenants move out, they got to make sure you can continue to make that mortgage payment, which is also why they require either the landlord experience or the property management company in there. A lot of first-time buyers, just having a mortgage payment alone and taking on the responsibilities of one unit is something new, let alone having to babysit, or just, make sure that the other three units, pay their rent on time.
Yeah,
So,
it could be stressful if people aren't up to the task of being a property manager in a
yeah.
business because you are a business owner when you're a landlord.
Oh, yeah.
You're running a rental business, you know. So want to make sure you guys understand that here. Let's see what else we got.
Even the property management company, even without it being required, it's not a bad idea, because they understand evictions and all this stuff that you're not going to unless you have landlord experience. Yeah, that's a different story. But
And that's why you got people like myself and Aaron here to help you guys with any real estate thing you guys have questions on. Okay. One of the things about the VA loan, of course, you obviously must be a veteran. Okay.
yes,
And you have to have your qualification, your entitlement. It's something that you earn. You're not just gonna, you don't just join the military and you automatically get access to
correct.
the VA loan. You got to have some requirements here. So, it's 2 years for regular service members, 6 years for reservists and National Guards. You got to have, maybe 90 days active duty during wartime and 181 days during peacetime. So if you're not sure if you've served long enough, you still may be eligible, but we got to check, with the VA and of course your loan officer. So we want to take care of that. One of the things I found out, when we were putting this together, Aaron, and I'm glad you showed me this, is a lot of people think this is just for people in the Army, Navy, maybe Marines,
Yeah,
but there's,
the main branches, but it's not.
yeah, tell them about this here. It's all seven different uniform services that get
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, honestly, I've never done a loan for the last two, but yeah, a lot of people do think it's just your main four, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, but it is, again, it's for the National Guard, it's for the Coast Guard, um, and I just did one. She was National Guard, and it does, like the other slide showed, it works a little differently than your main four military branches, where you serve 2 years, you get discharged honorably, hey, you automatically, you've got your VA benefits. Whereas like with National Guard, it's based on points or the reserves, things like that, because you may be in the National Guard and for 6 years and never even get called. You're just at home chilling. So they do require, I think it was like 181 days of active duty where they're called to active duty, and it's based on points. You've got to have a certain amount of points. And if you don't know how many you have, there's a form that we can order a certificate of eligibility, and it'll break down those X amount of points to see if you qualify.
I love it, Aaron. That's a great way to inform people. They don't necessarily have to be in the big four, Coast Guard, the NOHAA, and then the public health services too. They all qualify. And don't forget, the part-time weekend warriors,
Yep.
reservists, like you mentioned, they're also eligible for this too. Your personal military background, if you are that, it's only half the puzzle because we got to figure out how much you can actually afford to buy. But it is possible that if you're a reservist or a National Guard, that you could also be eligible for this. So
Yep.
keep that in mind. We also want to ensure that the home meets the eligibility requirements too. So again, the VA is pretty strict on this, right? The home has to be in good shape. Aaron, why don't you talk about that for just a minute?
Again, it's very similar. I mean, all of the loans anymore are conventional. Back in the day, it used to be VA and FHA just, really cracked down on everything. And now all of the loans have pretty much kind of come to I don't know, they'll look for the same things. It's health and safety. The main difference with VA versus, let's say, conventional or FHA is the termite report. With FHA and conventional loans, it's an option. So your client, Vic, can go and go, you know what, I don't want a termite report, or I do. Or as VA, it's not an option. they require a termite report and anything that they consider what they call Section 1 uh, items, which are like, the really bad ones. They have to be fixed or we can't close escrow on it. So that's a veteran type of thing. Like it says here, homes with pest, mold, rot. And, they're all going to call out main thing, like I said, broken windows, tripping hazards. They're looking for peeling paint. That's a big thing. If the
Yeah.
fascia or the side of the house has peeling paint, uh, FHA and VA, and even conventional, depending on the appraiser, they'll call it out, and it's got to be repaired typically by the seller. Um, but that's where you guys come in.
Yeah, we try and negotiate that down, and if you're buying a house using VA or FHA, understand they're a little bit, they're not super strict, but they do have rules regarding the property condition. Conventional lending is a little bit more loose, right? So, the property has to qualify for the loan type itself.
Yep.
So it's kind of complex, but we are here to try to make the complexities really simple for you guys and girls watching us today and watching the video at home. So now that you know all the different rules about the houses, the money, the math, the different types of loans, if you are thinking about possibly purchasing your first home or expanding into a portfolio using house hacking methods and different ways to get revenue, now you're ready to take some action here. Okay. So, next steps, if you're interested in talking with us about qualifying to buy your first home, qualifying to buy investment properties as a portfolio or using the house hacking methods, or if you know of anybody who may need our help in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, we are here for you, okay? Aaron is a great loan officer. I've known him close to 20 years. Smart guy, sharp guy, handsome too. I mean,
Oh,
look at this
thanks.
guy,
Yeah,
right?
I gotta
So
love this blurred background.
yeah, it's all a blur, buddy. You're like John Cena. You
I
can't
know.
see you, okay? But
Uh,
we have some things. If you're interested, the very first step to buying a house, whether you're a first-time buyer, whether you're moving up or you're downsizing, is getting qualified with a mortgage loan officer. If it's all cash, then there's no loan officer involved, which is a very small fraction of the buyers
yeah.
in California. So most people need a loan. And you're going to get in contact with Aaron and he's going to ask you to run your credit, review all your assets and your income. He's going to run you through the desktop underwriter. We're going to get a pre-approval, and Aaron's going to give me that pre-approval letter, the type of loan, the amount, the rate, all that good stuff. Then you, as the buyer, you and I get together with our team. We start shopping for houses that fit the criteria that you're looking for, that you're eligible to purchase, and we start to go on tours. We start to do some analysis on what you could rent these properties out for if you're house hacking units or possibly Airbnb being rooms
Oh, yeah.
for events. We work on that, and if it makes sense, we put together a purchase agreement. We submit the offer. We negotiate with the listing agents and the sellers to try to help you open escrow. We do our reports, our inspections, our disclosures. We go through that process. Aaron's going to fund the loan at the end of the day. You're going to sign your loan docs, and then I get the privilege of giving you keys to your investment. And that's one of the happiest days in this business I ever get to experience. So, it's a lot going on. Aaron, I know we want to break a little bit early to open it up for questions. We have Mary Jo Turner with us today. We have Christian Blasius with us today. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron and I at this time? Feel free to type it in the chat box or unmute yourself. We are here to help you. And we'll be here for a moment as long as you guys have questions and concerns.
Yeah, Vic, I was going to tell you, if they come to me saying they're paying cash, I'm going to talk them out of it. Uh, it's just because, I mean, why would you want to spend 800 grand to say on one place when you can leverage it and buy three?
There you
So,
go.
so there's so much more to just what we've gone over. Uh, just it's like I said, there's just a ton out there when it comes to loan programs and ways to buy properties, rentals, and things like that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's no reason not to own a home right now. Well, I mean, there are, but there's programs for a lot of people out there.
I heard something the other day. Aaron, and I want to share and end it with you. And Christian, by the way, thank you so much for attending today. Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns, okay? We love the follow up on Eventbrite. You can leave us a review on how this went because we're going to keep doing this every month for homeowners and our community. One of the things I wanted to say was, owning a home is a challenge. Buying your very first home, it's a little daunting. It's kind of scary. It's a big purchase. But nobody that I've ever met, I've been in this business 21 years, okay? Aaron, you've got a little bit more time on it. I mean, I don't know
You just
anybody.
called me old, didn't you?
You're more tenured in the business. You got more time on planet, okay? But one of the things I was thinking about was, renting right now is hard and it's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Rent is 100% interest. 100% interest. Now you're either going to pay your landlord's mortgage or you're paying your own mortgage, guys. You're going to pay somebody's mortgage. It might as well be yours. And think about this. The sacrifice you'll make for the first year to 18 months of being a homeowner, it balances out because your home your home payment, as long as you have a fixed rate, it's going to be the same for 30 years. And I promise you, your rent will continue to go up. And in 8 to 10 years from today, the amount of money that you're paying for in rent at that time could be the amount of money you're saving when you're owning a home. You're going to wish you bought a house in 2026 and 2036 because the payments are not going to shift. And if you're a renter, you're going to be like, dang, I should have listened to Vic and Aaron back then.
Well, that's 10 years of equity you just threw. That's 10 years of equity you threw away.
Yeah, right. So,
Oh,
anyhow, guys, thanks so much for your time today. Mary, thank you. Christian, thank you. For those of you guys watching this video on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. I'm Vic Quiroz, Caldwell Banker, Southern California. That's Aaron
Aaron,
Tennyson, United American Mortgage,
mortgage.
Confirmation Sale. We'll see you soon, guys.
All right, guys.
Take care,
Yeah, have a
everybody.
good one. Bye.